the man discovered something terrifying while patrolling. He saw countless prisoners of war stripped naked and frozen to death outside the window, while the ordered German commander chose to commit suicide in the room. However, the poor marksmanship did not allow him to achieve his wish. Seeing him struggling to reach the weapon, the man slowly moved his position and moved the pistol outward by half a meter. He wants to see this beast die in pain with his own eyes. The commander was tortured for an hour before finally swallowing his breath, but it was not enough to calm their anger. Although a small number of compatriots were rescued by them, countless refugees were still frozen into ice sculptures. It's hard to imagine what this group of people have experienced. They gathered the surrendered soldiers together, but at this moment, someone wanted to escape. Accompanied by a gunshot, everyone also panicked. Although these beasts deserve to die for their crimes, Teddy's heart is filled with regret. Obviously, their actions have transcended war and can even be said to be murder. After the war, he also grew tired of killing and switched careers to become a federal police officer. I didn't expect to take on a bizarre case right away. His superiors sent him a temporary partner to investigate a missing person in a mental hospital together. Obviously, the two of them have only recently met and are completely unaware of each other's situation. But this still does not affect their exploration of the case. The island that our partner said they were going to is holding the most dangerous mental patient. The island is surrounded by the sea, with cliffs and cliffs all around. The only way to leave is through this dock on the island. Obviously, it's extremely difficult to escape from this place. It seems that there must be hidden secrets behind the disappearance. As the two of them climbed onto this small island, the story gradually reached its climax. I believe that after watching it, you will definitely burn out your CPU. The deputy director of the hospital welcomed the two, but for some reason, the guards appeared particularly nervous, holding weapons as if they were under some kind of martial law. In theory, both sides are working for the government, and the atmosphere is somewhat eerie. After a journey of more than 10 minutes, they finally arrived at this mysterious mental hospital. The vice dean said that this area is mainly composed of 3 areas, the H ward where men are detained, and directly opposite is the B ward where women are detained. The building on the edge of the cliff is a military fortress, where the most dangerous patients live. If you want to enter there, you must obtain written proof from him and the dean, and only with their company can you enter. According to the regulations here, they must also hand over their matching guns first. Although such rules made Teddy feel speechless, he had to hand them over in order to solve the case as soon as possible. However, his partner's gun-pulling action appeared very clumsy, which inevitably made Teddy doubt his ability to handle the case. Accompanied by the guns they handed over, it was only then that they officially entered this hospital. The patients inside are also full of strange things. Some will greet them proactively, while others will stare at you expressionlessly. The strangest thing is that the woman next to them seems to be reminding them not to speak. Teddy didn't think much. After all, not a single person here is normal. After passing through layers of security doors, the two were taken to the office where they met the dean and would assist them with all their matters from behind. But at this moment, Teddy noticed that the words on the wall were chilling, while the dean said that the photos above were all real. In the past, they would use iron chains to handcuff patients, torture them severely, and even use screws to drill open their heads, pressing them in ice water until they fainted. Some patients even remove brain fluid, turning them into cold machines. Teddy also realized that the prisoners here were all criminals, or rather mentally ill individuals who had been murdered, but fortunately that was in the past. The dean said that now they have found a form of psychotherapy, but Teddy doesn't care about how to treat these people, because his task is to investigate the missing woman.
You could say that. She killed all 3 of her children. She drowned them in the lake behind her house. She took them out one by one, held their heads under till they died, and she brought them back inside and arranged them round the kitchen table. She ate a meal there before midnight.
Subsequently, the dean brought a photo of the female patient. However, when Teddy saw Rachel's appearance, he suddenly felt dizzy. In that moment, the scene from the past came back to his mind. Teddy thought it was his headache that had recurred, so he asked the dean to thank him P0. Later, the dean continued to talk about Rachel. He said that due to mental issues, the woman did not believe that she had killed the child and instead constructed another world in her heart. He doesn't think this is a mental hospital, but rather thinks that the people here are all his servants, such as delivery sources or milkmen. Dean Kidding Me said he has led people to search the entire island, but no trace of the woman has been found, and what made them most uneasy was that they had no idea how he escaped, because all the doors and windows were locked tightly. Teddy became more and more demonic as he listened, so he decided to go to the scene first and take a look. The caregiver said he found Rachel missing during a midnight inspection, and the 2 pairs of shoes left in the cabinet are still there. Can it be that he ran away barefoot? Later, Teddy also made a new discovery under the tiles next to the bed, with a note indicating who the 67th patient was. The dean confirmed that this was Rachel's handwriting, but he didn't know what it meant, so Teddy had to put away the note first. Then they came to the hall again, and the dean said that the caregivers would play cards here after turning off the lights. If Rachel leaves, this is a necessary path, but the people that night didn't see any figure. Oh, she turns invisible. Teddy thinks this is unreasonable and he needs to talk to all the employees here. At first, the dean seemed a bit difficult, but at Teddy's strong request, he managed to force everyone to gather on the same night. It seems that the dean is not very willing to cooperate in this case. There were more and more doubts on the entire island, and while it was still dark for a while, he and his partner came to the beach again. At this time, the vice dean was searching nearby with his subordinates. Watching their lazy work attitude, Teddy also felt disappointed. The man said the tide here is very fierce, and it's impossible for a normal person to swim away. They searched around the island but did not find the woman's body. Teddy asked if the cave on the cliff had been searched, but the deputy warden said it was impossible to go there because the entire cliff had poisonous vines, let alone a patient without shoes. Then he became curious about the lighthouse across from him. The man introduced that it was the sewage treatment equipment on the island, and someone had already been sent to inspect it. However, Teddy still has an indescribable feeling. Why are there still guards guarding the sewage treatment area? At night, the dean summoned all the employees to the lobby, and it was evident that these people were also very resistant. The partner asked, "Did any one of you see Rachel leave?" They all turned their gaze to the security guard on the side, insisting that they had not seen anyone, but how could they escape Teddy's eyes? Under his constant questioning, the young man finally revealed that he had been to the restroom once that night. Teddy is once again putting pressure on the employees, and indeed there is another nurse who can't hold back. He said Dr. Sean was on overtime that night, and he was directly responsible for Rachel's situation. But when Teddy asked to see Sean, the dean said he had already gone home on vacation a day ago.
You're in a state of lockdown. A dangerous patient has escaped, and you let her primary doctor leave on vacation?
Of course, he's a doctor.
Teddy seriously suspected that there was a connection between the two, and under his constant pressure, the dean finally agreed to give the other party a call. However, due to the recent storm, the communication equipment on the island could not be used at all, and Teddy could not determine whether it was true or false. However, it can be confirmed that they were not willing to cooperate. As the rain grew heavier and heavier, the dean suggested that we investigate this area tonight and warmly invited the two of them to our home as guests. But at this moment, the music playing in the room once again reminded him of his memories when he served in the army. Because at that time, when the general committed suicide, the same music seemed to be playing in the room as well. Teddy thought he had another headache, but then he realized that the dean had invited another guest. It seems that Dang Dang is just being polite to himself, but since he has arrived, it is fate and he will seize every opportunity to solve the case. These two people come and go, but there is indeed a lot of gunpowder in the conversation. It seems that men are not very welcome either. During their conversation, Teddy once again requested to see Dr. Sean's file, but was once again rejected by the man.
Out of the question. Bullshit! Who the hell is in here anyway?
Dr. Naring acts as liaison to our board of overseers. He relayed your request and it's been
Refused? They don't have the authority to refuse, and neither do you, sir.
Marshal, continue your investigation and we'll do all we can.
Teddy became more and more angry as he listened. Since coming here, he has been hindered everywhere. He was also so angry that he rushed out the door and decided to take a boat early tomorrow morning to leave. He wants to report everyone here, but the dean seemed very calm, and Teddy didn't rest well in the past 2 days. He had nightmares again at night. He dreamed of his deceased wife, but when he wanted to hug his lover again, Teddy's hands began to spray water outwards, and then turned blood red again. The wife said that Rachel was here, urging her husband to find out the truth. However, at the same time, he also mentioned another name, which Redstide wanted to continue questioning. However, the wife suddenly turned into nothingness, and he only had rainwater left in his hand. Teddy suddenly sat up from the bed. It turned out that the roof was leaking, and water droplets happened to drip onto him. At this moment, the rain outside was getting heavier and heavier. It seemed that there would definitely be no boat coming early. Since he couldn't leave, he had to continue the investigation. He found the dean again, hoping to see the treatment records Rachel received, but was rejected by the other party again. He wants to know if Rachel has received any treatment outside of the regulations.
Do you know the state of the mental health field these days, gentlemen?
Not a clue, doctor.
The dean said that there are currently 2 schools of treatment for psychiatric patients. The theory is to adhere to surgical treatment, such as orbital and frontal lobectomy. Although the treated patients are very obedient, they have also become mindless zombies. Psychologists, on the other hand, believe that this is too inhumane. They insist on using medication therapy to relax the patient's mind, and to some extent, they are grateful for it.
And which school are you, Doc?
Me?
I have this radical idea that if you treat a patient with respect, listen to him, try and understand, you just might reach him.
These patients, huh?
Even these What should be a last resort is becoming a first response. Give them a pill, put them in a corner, and it all goes away. Rachel Solando was on a combination of drugs meant to keep her from becoming violent, but it was only intermittently effective. The greatest obstacle to her recovery was her refusal to face what she had done.
Was. Is there a reason you keep referring to your patient in the past tense, Doctor?
Look outside, Marshal. Why do you think?
Although the dean showed a strong sense of justice, Teddy always felt that something was wrong. Then he brought up several patients for trial, but they seemed to have been arranged. Almost all the answers were the same, except that he killed his own children and treated everyone as servants. Obviously, this was not normal. When Teddy asked about the next patient, the woman asked for a drink of water and her partner had to temporarily leave. However, the woman's face suddenly changed and she grabbed the notebook from Teddy's hand. She quickly wrote something and handed it back. As his partner returned, he had to put away his notebook for now. Then he asked the woman the last question and said, "Have you ever heard of a patient named Reddy's here?" However, the woman became very nervous upon hearing this, and he said nothing before getting up and leaving. After coming out, the partner wanted to know who Reddy's was because he would mention it casually every time he asked a patient. Teddy no longer conceals that he said he voluntarily volunteered to investigate here, and that missing patients were his main task, but he came here for other purposes. Teddy said that Reddy's was the arsonist who killed his wife, which is why the room was filled with burnt marks when he dreamt of his wife last night. Since the death of his wife, he has been secretly investigating, but the killer has been like an evaporation from the world, and since then there has been no news. It wasn't until a year ago in the newspaper that he saw the news of Reddy's being locked up here, and now both the male and female wards have already asked about it. The only possibility is in that mysterious military fortress, but before that, he still needs to check a place because the other party may have died, but after confirmation, his name is not here. And at this moment, the partner remembered the woman from earlier, saying that when I went to the water market, the other person said something, but Teddy said he didn't say anything. Come on body, she wrote it. But when he opened his notebook, he saw that the other party was asking him to run away quickly, and at that moment, suddenly the wind and rain on the island began to intensify, and the two were forced to hide in a wooden house. If Reddy's is really here, his partner is worried that he will lose his sanity. However, Teddy said that ordinary people will never understand the cruelty of war, so he is already tired of killing.
That's not why I'm here. So what is this all about?
Teddy said that since Reddy's disappeared, he has been investigating several famous mental hospitals, and these so-called medical institutions are not as simple as they seem. He suspects that these so-called mental hospitals are secretly conducting human experiments and ultimately turning them into emotionless war machines. Teddy said he had a college classmate named George who was willing to come here for an experiment in order to make money. He waited for a year before letting him leave, but George executed 3 of his classmates at school. However, due to his mental illness, he eventually betrayed and returned here to serve his sentence. However, his classmates requested the death penalty from the court, only to stay away from this mental hospital. It can be imagined what he has experienced here. So the real reason Teddy came here is actually to collect evidence and expose the malignancy here. But his partner raised doubts because it was all too coincidental. When he began investigating the mental hospital, a missing case happened to fall on him. The partner believes that these are not that simple, and it is even possible that they intentionally lured him because now, except for a photo of a woman, they are not sure if there is actually Rachel as a person. At this moment, the wooden door was suddenly blown open by the strong wind. Fortunately, the vice dean found it and the two of them safely returned to the hospital. As their clothes were already wet, they had to temporarily find a sick suit to put on. But when Teddy came to look for the dean again, he found that the hospital leaders were in a meeting. Due to the ferocity of this typhoon, they are concerned that protective facilities may be destroyed as a result. How will we accommodate the 66 patients here at that time? Upon hearing this, Teddy can no longer sit still. Why would they say there are only 66 people, even though Rachel's note states patient 67? Are they trying to conceal something?
This is ridiculous.
What are they doing here?
We're doing our goddamn job.
But at this moment, the dean said that the missing Rachel had been found, and there were no scars on the woman's body. It was hard to imagine where he had gone.
Who are these? Why are they in my house?
Police officers, Rachel. They have a few questions.
However, before Teddy could speak, the woman mistook her for her husband. He cried and said that he did not kill their child. However, the next second, he suddenly pushed Teddy away. After such a commotion, Teddy's headache also flared up again. He was helped to the ward by his partner, and in his sleep, he returned to the World War II period. But this time, it was different from before. He saw his wife and daughter in the crowd, but the next second, his wife turned into Rachel, and his daughter slowly sat up, questioning him why he didn't save himself. Suddenly, Teddy was pulled back to reality. He was about to take out his notebook when he saw a woman walking into the room in panic. However, when he saw it clearly, he was dumbfounded. He didn't expect his wife to come over and tell him that Redis was not dead. He must be somewhere here. However, at this moment, he opened his eyes again and didn't expect it to be a dream within a dream. And at this moment, everyone was in chaos. It turned out that after an overnight typhoon, the park was almost paralyzed. After seeing the knocked-down power grid, Teddy guessed that the entire power system should have been destroyed, and this was also his best opportunity to go to the military fortress where he might find Redis. But suddenly he was ambushed by a patient. Fortunately, Teddy had excellent qualities, which allowed him to break free from the constraints of the other party. However, this also caused serious injuries to the other party, and his partner had to take the prisoner for treatment first. Teddy also knew he was too impulsive, but in order to investigate the truth, he walked deeper once again. Told me you'll be Creator's Place, promise light it is. Teddy never imagined that he would meet that so-called college classmate Joe here. The man showed him what he looked like and said that everything was thanks to him. George warned him to escape here quickly, saying that what he was doing now was just a game, or rather a complete preparation for him, and that he was not investigating here, just a little white mouse in the maze. Teddy thought he was crazy. However, George reminded him again, think about it, have you never seen that so-called partner before? George said he would soon be taken to the lighthouse, which would mean having his brain lobe removed.
I'm gonna get you out of here. You're not going to the lighthouse. You're not. You can't dig out the truth and kill Latest at the same time. You gotta make a choice. You understand that, don't you? You wanna uncover the truth? You gotta let it go. I can't. You have to let it go! I can't! I can't! Leave this island.
Teddy can't make a judgment right now. He doesn't know if he needs to believe what his classmates are saying. And at this moment, his partner also came over and said he had found Reddy's case file, but Teddy said he would look at it later because he had to go to the lighthouse to find the answer first. However, his partner stopped him again and said, we have now found the case of Reddy's, which is enough to prove the existence of patient 67 in the hospital. But at this moment, Teddy seemed to have thought of his classmate's warning. Indeed, he never knew about this so-called partner, and now he is trying to prevent him from going to the lighthouse to investigate the truth. Teddy doesn't want the man to follow his partner anymore, so he has to reluctantly choose to leave. But when he was about to go down the mountain on the other side, he found himself smoking cigarettes with Wei Ran at the edge of the cliff. And when Teddy looked down, he saw his partner lying motionless on the rock. He ignored the danger and went down the cliff to save people. But just as he hurriedly descended to the bottom, he found that his partner had disappeared. Teddy loudly called out the other person's name, but when he looked up, he saw a bright light coming from a cave on the cliff. He thought it was his partner hiding inside, but he didn't expect to climb up again. But to his surprise, there was a woman hiding inside. Teddy quickly revealed his police identity, and the other party relaxed their vigilance. During the conversation, it was also learned that the woman was Rachel. He said he was not a patient, but a doctor here. He was locked up as a madman because he discovered that they were conducting human experiments on the island. Fortunately, he found an opportunity to escape and hid in this cave. Only then did he start to make a living. Teddy thinks his police identity is enough to expose everything, but the woman says it's useless because anyone who knows the secret can't leave alive. Rachel asked him if he has been experiencing frequent headaches lately, and even has strange dreams at night. Hey.
I am prone to migraines. Yes.
Jesus, you haven't taken any pills, have you? I mean, even aspirin.
Yeah, the aspirin.
Jesus. And you ate the food in the cafeteria and drank the coffee they gave you. You tell me at least that you've been smoking your own cigarettes.
Rachel said that hospitals will keep people who want to investigate secrets on the island. These people will unknowingly take psychotropic drugs and eventually be taken to a lighthouse for surgery. At that time, they will lose their minds and be at the mercy of others. At this moment, Teddy fell asleep again due to a headache, but by the time he woke up, the woman had already disappeared. Teddy finally understood the ugliness of this confinement island and decided to hurry off by boat today. However, there is still an important thing to do now, which is to notify his partner. However, when he asked the dean if he had seen it, his response made him dumbfounded.
You don't have a partner, Marshal. You came here alone.
Overnight, it seems like everything here has changed. Teddy had no choice but to excuse himself and leave. He thought his partner might have been taken away for an experiment, so he ignited the dean's car, creating chaos, and then took the opportunity to seize the guard's weapon. He ran up the stairs all the way and finally arrived at the top of the lighthouse, but it was completely different from what he had imagined. There was no such thing as a laboratory, and the dean had been waiting here for a long time. He said there were no bullets in the gun, so you should put them down. Then he revealed all the truth, and the dean said that you have been here for 2 years. Aren't you always curious about who patient 67 is? That person is you. You have a very serious tendency towards violence and delusions, and often fantasize about non-existent people, and then use the other person's mouth to express your thoughts. This situation started from the moment you arrived here. Then the dean took out another medical record.
This highly intelligent, highly delusional, decorated Army veteran, present for the liberation of Dachau. Former U.S. Marshal, known proclivity for violence, shows no remorse for his crime because he denies the crime ever took place. Highly developed and fantastical narratives which preclude facing the truth of his act.
I've had enough of this bullshit. Where's my partner? Where's Chuck? Where
is it? The dean said you must accept reality, and then he opened a blackboard and said, "Didn't you notice any differences in the inverted letters of the two people you were investigating from the beginning? Rachel's name is reversed to be your wife's name, and that arsonist, Lattice, is reversed to be you. You're not even called Tabby, but Lattice. The store manager said that you were sentenced to this place by the court 2 years ago, but due to the severity of your sins, you were unable to forgive yourself, so you fabricated another version of yourself because in your imagination, you were not a murderer, but rather a shining federal police officer." The dean said, "I also hope you can always live in your own fantasies, but you are really too cruel, and George was attacked by you 2 weeks ago to become that way." Roll call.
one reason why I would even touch him?
Because he called you ladies.
Then the dean took out another conversation record, which recorded that the hospital had been putting pressure on him and the attending physician, saying that if we still couldn't cure you, we would have to permanently remove your brain fluid because only in this way would you not continue to harm others. However, we never made the decision to give up. Look who came in behind you. Your so-called partner is actually your attending physician, the ZN doctor mentioned by the female nurse. The store manager said that it was the two of them who applied to the board of directors before directing this role-playing for 3 days and 2 nights, and all the people you see are actually workers here, with the aim of restoring your memory and accepting reality. Then the dean took out another set of photos and said that even if you don't believe it, you should still know this person. At this time, Teddy finally remembered that his memory was pulled back to 2 years ago, and the truth finally surfaced. Teddy only returned home from work that day and found his wife wet all over. However, he didn't see the figures of his 3 children, and he suddenly realized something. However, just as he looked up at the lake, the 3 children were already floating on top and there was no movement. In despair, he shot his wife to death and finally set fire to the house. From then on, he began to experience schizophrenia, attempting to immerse himself in fantasies. But this matter cannot be entirely blamed on his wife, because the war also brought him an indelible psychological shadow, to the point where he drank heavily all day after retiring, and his wife also suffered from depression as a result, ultimately leading to the occurrence of this tragedy. But when Teddy woke up again and was in the hospital room, he finally remembered everything. Thinking of what he had done before, he also shed tears of regret. The store manager slowly sat beside him and said, "Your illness was actually cured a few months ago, but it eventually recurred." He said that he has never given up on drug treatment and is confident enough to completely control his condition. However, what needs to be confirmed now is that you are willing to accept this cruel reality because there is a group of strong-willed individuals who always insist on the surgical plan. The next day, Teddy sat in front of the door and the attending doctor walked over, still handing over a cigarette as usual. Unexpectedly, Teddy suddenly said,
Gotta get off this rock, Chuck. Get back to the mainland, whatever the hell's going on here. It's
"Bad man." I didn't expect him to imagine himself as Teddy again, because this was his last chance. It seemed that their treatment plan had failed, which meant he had to undergo a brain fluid resection surgery. But just as he was about to take Redis away, he suddenly changed his tone and said, "I've been thinking about one thing these past few days, which is whether to live like a monster or die sober." At this moment, the doctor realized that Teddy was not untreated. He just felt that his memory of himself might not be as good as that of a walking corpse. Instead of living like this, it was better to undergo surgery and completely forget about the past. Regarding this movie, many people have another interpretation. Near Island is actually a human experimental base, and Teddy did indeed discover this secret after investigation. However, at the same time, the hospital also learned about his flaws through means. Finally, under the guidance of drugs, he successfully hallucinated and forged documents to prove that he had been here for 2 years. Finally, whether you admit it or not, it's hard to escape the fate of being operated on. Many people also accept this explanation. After all, conspiracy theories can be justified anywhere, but the director also gave another hint in the movie, such as when they first went to the island, the guard seemed particularly nervous. For example, when handing over a gun, the partner appears very unfamiliar, and the shoes taken out in Rachel's room are actually men's, which is a hint that they are not professional actors. And when he heard his partner say he found Reddy's file, Teddy's reaction was not to open it immediately. Instead, his subconscious chose to avoid it, because if he opened it, it was enough to prove that he was Reddy's. So which ending would you prefer?